In an extremely deep wide receiver class, Rashod Bateman is clearly at the top of the list, coming out of Minnesota. He's had a little bit of an up-and-down season, and last year was hampered by the fact that the Big Ten stopped, then started their schedule, then he opted out at the end. But I do like the fact that he wanted to come back and play his last year there and try to improve his status in the draft. While he didn't do that, he didn't do anything to drop either. He's an exceptional route runner. You see the technique, you see the form. He's a tough competitor. I love the fact that he did want to come back and try to compete this last season. The one thing, and this is nitpicking somewhat, top end speed isn't quite there when speed is all the rage in the NFL, and you do see occasional drops. Mohamed Sanu, I think, would be a pretty good comp for him, but I could also see a former Minnesota Viking player that he's similar to, too, Hall of Famer Chris Carter.
Jason Oweh, the edge rusher out of Penn State, one of my favorite players in this year's class coming into the NFL, stands 6'5", 252 pounds. You can officially put him on anybody's athletic freak list. That's a safe choice. Kind of reminds you of Montez Sweat out of Mississippi State, ultimately ended up with the Washington Redskins. I think he'll be a first round, maybe a second round draft pick. He's got physical attributes that are very differentiated. He can get into and out of those moves at the line of scrimmage, putting pressure on a quarterback. And as I mentioned earlier, he is a run defender. He got much better at it. Because of his skills, because of his athleticism, I think he has a bright career. The biggest thing he needs to clean up is sometimes he's passive, especially when the ball is getting run away from him.
Ben Cleveland is a gigantic human being, even when compared to NFL offensive linemen. But don't misunderstand, he is not sloppy. Those 354 pounds are well proportioned, and he does a good job of staying in balance on his pass sets with the ability to anchor against most defensive linemen. Though power rushers can occasionally give him trouble. He also shows good leverage on combo blocks, and while he's not a high-end athlete, he shows little trouble getting to the second level where he will lay out linebackers in the way. That said, Cleveland does sometimes struggle to hit a moving target in space, and despite his size, he can be susceptible to power rushers. He can also sometimes be a step slow to pick up twists and stunts, but it's also worth noting that he didn't give up a sack during 3 years at Georgia. That said, he'll probably need to play with more consistency at the next level to earn snaps, but as we sit here, he's probably nothing more than an average NFL starting guard. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, but there's certainly room for improvement.
Oklahoma State has had its fair share of NFL wide receivers, and Tylan Wallace is just the next Mike Gundy product to come along and hear his name called in the NFL draft. Where Tylan Wallace thrives is yak, 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 the yards after the catch, and that playmaking ability is absolutely worth bringing him into your team to be able to make your passing attack more dynamic. The only weaknesses here, the speed overall is a bit average for the position, especially in this class, and there are injury concerns as a knee injury limited some of his time during 2020 and tended to nag a little bit. But as long as he's healthy, he's somebody that brings so much versatility to your passing attack. Tylan Wallace, another Oklahoma State great to make it to the NFL.
Shaun Wade, cornerback from Ohio State. Shaun initially opted out of 2020 season, and then he decided to opt back in. The thing that I love about Shaun, his length and athleticism and the versatility. He's played both inside corner and outside corner, and looks like he's more natural in the inside. The concerns that I have with Shaun Wade, sometimes he struggles at the line of scrimmage when playing press technique. If you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, go turn the tape. When you look at the playoff game against Clemson, very, very questionable tape coming from Shaun Wade. When you look at the national championship game against Alabama, very, very bad tape coming from Shaun Wade. So me personally, not knowing exactly who he is as a player, I'm a bit concerned because we've seen good Shaun Wade and we've seen bad Shaun Wade. But when you look at the NFL comp to Shaun Wade, Kevin King, cornerback from Green Bay.
Notre Dame edge rusher Dalton Hayes has the chiseled frame that every defensive coordinator loves to see from their prospects when they're entering the NFL. And there's a lot of speed to power conversion around the corner. He's not very limited athletically with what he can do on the football field. But right now, outside of that outside speed rush, he typically does not have a pass rush plan to get to the quarterback, and he lacked productivity during his time with the Fighting Irish. My NFL comparison, Kamoko Toure.